Hello, I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics. Today we'll take a look at a new force in local, state, and national politics. I'm talking about people who have not been particularly engaged in politics previously, but who were inspired to activism by the election of Donald Trump. We'll talk with Celeste Walker of Orchard City Indivisible and Carly Hasbrook of Swing Left. They represent local chapters of national groups, and we're wondering what they hope to achieve in an area like the Valley that already swings left. Later, Kathleen King will brief us on the work of the Healthier Kids Foundation. And then on Where Are They Now, we'll talk with Larry Jinks, who was editor of the San Jose Mercury News from 1977 to 1981 and later served as publisher of the newspaper. All this next on Valley Politics. Welcome everyone, and welcome Celeste Walker and Carly Hasbrook.
Thank you.
Let's start by hearing a little bit about your organization. So Celeste, start with you and Orchard City Indivisible. What is it?
So we are a chapter of the National Indivisible team. Indivisible started as a 23-page handbook in mid-December, and in early January our group formed because we liked the accessibility and practicality of the handbook to resist the Trump agenda.
And so the election of Donald Trump
Yes.
is really what instigated this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And your one chapter, how many are there nationwide? 7,000?
I think there's close to 7,000 nationwide, and there's pockets of a lot in some areas, and then they're more dispersed in red states. But our area has quite a few.
Yeah. And Carly, you're with Swing Left, but Swing Left works with Orchard City Indivisible. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in membership, I think, right? Tell us about Swing Left.
True. So like Indivisible, Swing Left is a national grassroots organization that sprung up in the wake of the 2016 presidential election. And Swing Left is focused on identifying congressional swing districts all over the country and funneling resources there so that progressive activists can flip it.
So yeah, a swing district is one that could go either way. It could go Republican, could go Democratic.
Yes.
And
so
your goal is to make it go
Exactly.
Democratic.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the 2018 congressional election, all 435 seats in the House of Representatives are up for grabs, and we only need to flip 24 of those to take back control of the House. And Swing Left has identified 65 of those as swing districts. And so our two chapters do work closely together. I don't know that that's necessarily the case with a lot of Indivisible and Swing Left groups, but we find that our missions are very complementary.
Remind us your geographic base. Where are you?
So we're South Bay. South Bay. We started in Campbell, but we have members from Saratoga, Cupertino, San Jose,
Los Gatos,
Lower
Glen,
yep.
and beyond,
Yep.
probably.
Yeah, so we have a lot of overlap.
And what got each of you personally involved? Were you really politically active before Donald Trump was elected?
I was politically active in a different sense that I consider myself to be now.
Yeah.
I ran for city council in Campbell.
That's pretty active.
That's pretty active. And then I'm the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. This feels like a different vein of the same thing.
Yeah, that's really a local focus,
Yeah.
generally nonpartisan.
Yes.
Parks are a little bit different from talking
it's
about
friendly.
healthcare.
Everyone's happy when they talk about parks. Yeah.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
What about you, Carly?
I was not politically active until the night of the election. I always followed politics, but I didn't get off the sidelines. I never felt the sense of urgency that I do now with the election of Donald Trump and with Republicans holding all three branches of government. So, the thought that got me through what I consider the trauma of election night was the thought of, in 2018, flipping the House. And so when organizations like Indivisible and Swing Left cropped up, I was overjoyed and jumped in with both feet.
So what exactly do your groups do?
So we've talked about this a little bit recently, that I think our two groups are very complementary because Indivisible is focusing on things happening at a local level, kind of the most pressing needs right now.
Here in the Valley.
Here in the Valley and nationwide. So in the last month, it's been healthcare, but it's about putting out the most urgent fires as they crop up, whereas we see what you do is more long game.
Exactly. So we think that's more of like a defensive, kind of the immediate concerns, and then thinking about winning elections and taking back the House and taking back ultimately the presidency in 2020 are kind of the longer term and the more offense game.
But how does that apply locally? I mean, you're swing left, but this valley already swings left. The vote for Hillary Clinton was, what, 73%? All of our local elected representatives to the state legislature and Congress are Democrats already. So what do you do in this valley?
So locally, so for one thing, what we're focused on out in the 10th Congressional District, which is our closest swing district, we
what
deploy.
What are some of the cities in that
so
district?
So that's Manteca,
okay.
Modesto, Turlock, and
Valley
Tracy.
District, yeah.
Yeah. And so the Republican representative there won his last election by only 8,000 votes, only 3%. So it's definitely a flippable district, and there are some powerhouse organizers getting ready already out there. So we're just working with our progressive counterparts out there. And we're doing things like voter registration drives, precinct walking, and in 2018, ultimately getting out the vote. And those are skills that we're going to be able to apply here in the Valley as well, because that's another thing I think that Dems need to be thinking about is just like the Tea Party, how do we harness this grassroots energy and turn it into something in the future, something viable? I envision us becoming a powerful wing of the Democratic Party and turning these skills into, winning elections in the future.
Well, that raises a couple of questions. How are you greeted when you go over to Tracy and Manteca? Do they think you're carpetbaggers or?
Well, of course, that's what, Jeff Denham likes to tell people.
Yeah, go back to San Francisco.
Sure, but you know what? The 10th Congressional District actually has a 3% Democratic registration advantage, and it actually went to Hillary Clinton in the election. So we just view ourselves as helping people engage in their democracy. We're just helping people vote the way they want to vote. So I don't consider us to be carpetbaggers at all. I feel like participating in your democracy and voting is the most patriotic thing you can do.
I know you don't consider it, but do they consider it when you're over there? How do they react to it?
Sure, of course, that's what they try to say, that
Yeah.
they try to bring that up. But like I said, there are already progressives on the ground there, and they are locals. They live there. All we're doing is supporting them.
Okay. Carly, how are you moving the Valley left? Celeste.
It's all right.
How are you moving the Valley left?
So
We're already left.
We are already left, and we're lucky to have two senators who are fairly vocal and almost always on the right side of things. This is something our membership finds frustrating at times because we're not getting to go do die-ins to protest. It's a little bit less glamorous, but it means for us calling every week, hopefully every day, and thanking Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein every time they stand up and make some noise. It's phone banking where we can be supportive to other districts that need some help, and just reminding them that we're there paying attention. So for us, that's sitting down and having face-to-face meetings with their staffers once a month, and just reminding them that we're here and we're watching and we need them to be loud on our behalf.
And those positive, supportive calls are actually valued by elected officials because that's not typically what they get. Mostly it's people who are pissed off.
That's
not
right.
people who are saying you're doing a good job, stick with it.
Yes. And
so you're trying to get people to stay the course.
Stay the course and just remind them that we're there, and if they're not being bold in their actions, there's elections coming up.
You're also doing some really local things. You did something with Campbell City Council recently,
Yes,
right?
we did.
A resolution.
So we, in March, took about 100 people to the city council and asked that Campbell become a sanctuary city. So we have a wonderful police chief. In practice, our city is already a sanctuary city. They do not participate in raids, but we wanted a proclamation of some sort and some formal adoption of sanctuary status to protect undocumented people in Campbell. They were unable to make a decision that night, but we just found out that in June, the resolution passed. So they decided to go with the other group of cities in the Bay Area with a resolution that's kind of a blanket. It does everything but call it a sanctuary city, but in practice it's the same thing.
That's typically what cities and counties do. So you can push the Valley a little bit further left.
Yes, we can.
Right? Yeah.
They knew we were coming back.
There are plenty of issues to work on. Minimum wage is one that's been worked on in many cities around here. Carly, you mentioned the Tea Party. And do other people think you're just the Democratic version of the Tea Party? Are you?
Sure. I mean, that's actually, the founders of Indivisible say that outright, that was their inspiration. They were congressional staffers for Democratic representatives who bore the brunt of the Tea Party coming in and making noise in Congress. So they saw firsthand the effectiveness of it. And after the election, they decided to write down those tactics and let everybody enjoy the fruits of it. So, and like I said, that's who I was thinking of on election night. I remembered the power of the Tea Party in 2010 and their ability to, take all those seats. So yes, I mean, I think that there's a lot we can emulate when it comes to the Tea Party.
Well, I think your activists are a little more polite than the Tea Party activists are as a whole.
We also don't dress up in revolutionary garb.
You don't have costumes, which is a little disappointing.
Handmaid's Tale.
We should come up with some.
You could get some costumes.
Yeah.
Well, I went to one of your meetings, as you know.
Yeah.
And I expected to see a room full of millennials, people like you, under the age of 40, generally like 18 to 38, 40 years old. And that's not the room I saw.
No.
You had, I counted nearly 100 people. So it was a huge turnout, and that's amazing that you get people to come. But it was an older demographic. There were maybe 6 or 8 or 10 of you under the age of 40.
Yeah.
What's happening? Why aren't other millennials like you engaging?
I think that has partly to do with where we are.
Campbell has got it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a slightly older demographic. I know a lot of the East Bay groups are primarily millennial. But I think there's a real problem in getting people to come out from behind their computer screen and engage in the just slogging through it. That we see a lot of millennials at the marches. Those are sexy. You go with a poster and you get to march with people and it's fun. And a lot of the work that we do every Tuesday night is just grinding it out. And it's hard to tell somebody who doesn't have a lot of free time because they're trying to earn a living and have a social life. It's hard to get them to show up once a week.
Trying to pay rent.
Yep.
Going to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you two have kids.
Yes.
You have lives.
Yes,
you
we
have
do.
a job.
Yes.
But you make time.
Yes.
And other people are going to have to figure that out. Do you want to talk about engaging millennials? You want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's definitely something that we want to do. And South Bay Swing Left actually just enlisted a youth ambassador who's going to help us target millennials and specifically college students. We're going to be organizing voter registration drives on college campuses and maybe even in high schools. So that is definitely something we're conscious of. When it comes to why, I mean, I really don't know. When I ask my millennial nephews, it's pretty much what Celeste just said. They're just busy trying to make rent. And they like to tweet and go on Facebook, but they don't really want to come to our meetings. Yeah. So.
Well, that's going to be a challenge for flipping the House in 2018.
Yeah.
Voter turnout in California in 2014 was 42%. And nationally, only about 10% of millennials, 25% of millennials voted in 2014. So to flip the House in many of these districts, you're going to have to get millennials out and minority voters.
Exactly.
And frankly, Democrats, because Democrats have a lower turnout rate than Republicans.
But what I'm hopeful when I look at the special elections we've just had, yes, we lost, but we only lost by 3-4 percentage points in districts where we were that weren't even supposed to be competitive. So if we perform at those margins in 2018, we take the House. So we've got to keep the enthusiasm going.
Definitely. How do you do that in your own group? Why do people come back You have weekly meetings.
We meet weekly.
And 75 to 100 people show up every week. And people go over to Tracy and Manteca every week. How do you get people coming back?
I do think that part of it is that we meet weekly. So a lot of the other groups in our area meet monthly or twice a month. And I think we've habitualized it, that at first it was hard to commit every single Tuesday.
This is what you do on Tuesday.
Yeah, this is it. And so for a lot of us, some weeks it's a support network where we enjoy potluck together, socialize, we've made friends. Some weeks it's just hard work, but we know every Tuesday this is where we're going to be.
And I have to say, I've made a whole host of new friendships that I really value. We are like-minded, we share values, and it's been cathartic. It's been healing in the wake of this election, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's important. I noticed there really were social, people were enjoying being there. They were happy to see each other. There was hugging, there was laughter.
Yes.
So you've made it a social occasion for people, and that's a really good way to get people engaged and keep them coming back. They feel good about being there. So we're almost out of time, but I have to ask, what's next for the two of you? When are you running for office?
People ask Celeste that all the time.
Well, don't they ask you that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
We're
asking now.
We'll see where it goes. You know, I don't want to be doing this. I'd rather be home doing play dates with my kids, but you know what? People have to step up. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. What about you, Celeste?
I like activism. I've done city politics, and I like activism.
And by that you mean not running for office, but being active on issues and in politics.
Yeah, or perhaps at a different level than the city level. So building issues seemed really
so you
important
might run
a year.
against Evan Lowe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, I this is not over. I think that's the
No,
thing.
it's not over.
If Trump is impeached, which we hope he is, this is not over. So.
Well, I think you got your work cut out for you
We
for
do.
2018 and 2020 probably, and on and on. So keep those people coming. Thanks very much for being with us today. We really appreciate
Thank you.
your time, and congratulations on what you're doing.
Thank
you.
for having us. Thank you.
Now it's time for community news with Kathleen King of the Healthier Kids Foundation.
Hello, I'm Kathleen King with the Healthier Kids Foundation. We've been a resource for families in Silicon Valley since 2000, and we're the only foundation in Santa Clara County exclusively focused on children's health. In 2000, 1 out of every 6 children in this county didn't have health coverage. We're proud to say that 98% of children in this county now have health insurance. Healthier Kids Foundation believes that even one child without health care is one child too many. Together with our schools and community-based partners, we provide high-tech health screenings, referral services, and health education for Bay Area children and their families. We believe that a healthier, earlier philosophy with an emphasis on prevention and wellness will allow our children to thrive and learn in school. Healthier Kids Foundation partners with Head Start, state preschools, TK, and many public and charter school districts. We have 6 programs that address the needs of children aged 0 to 18. Since the start of each program, Healthier Kids Foundation has identified 6,000 uninsured children and assisted them with enrolling for health coverage, screened 59,000 children for vision issues using a high-tech photo optic camera, and helped families use their insurance to get glasses for over 3,000 children. We've also provided screening with licensed dentists for over 23,000 children for oral health issues, and for 10,600 children for hearing issues. And we've delivered 10 steps to a healthier you parenting workshops to 5,000 parents. Check us out online at www.hkidsf.org. Children are 25% of Silicon Valley residents, but 100% of its future. Thank you.
Next, we'll learn a bit about local history from Larry Jinks, editor of the San Jose Mercury News from 1977 to 1981, and publisher of the newspaper from 1989 to 1994. According to a noted professor of journalism under Jinks, for the first time, the paper was performing serious and enterprising journalism. Here's Larry. Well, thanks for welcoming us. You came to San Jose in 1977.
That's correct.
What brought you here?
Well, I had been, for about 16 years, I had been on the Miami Herald, and the last 4 years of that I was the executive editor, which meant I was in charge of the news operations of the Herald. Didn't have anything to do with the opinion pages. And I had let it be known, not very forcefully, that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in Miami for a whole set of reasons. But I thought I would be there probably for a good bit longer, and then one day I was called in and asked if I would like to come out and talk to a guy named Tony Ritter in San Jose, who was being groomed to be the next publisher of the San Jose paper.
Actually, it was the San Jose papers then, right?
Yeah,
Morning
yeah,
Mercury,
it was the Merc and the News.
Morning
and,
Mercury and
yeah,
Evening News. So
yeah,
they actually
that's
worked
right.
two papers.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, but they were administered
Yeah.
as one unit. And I thought it would be interesting to try. I came out with Claire, my wife, and spent a couple of days. She was mostly, Tony had somebody showing her around homes, and I spent most of the time with him. At that precise point, Tony was not yet publisher. His uncle Joe Ritter was the publisher, but it was clear that he was he was destined to be. And so I went home that first night and said, well, you know, this is kind of interesting. And she said, we can't afford to live here.
People are still saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Knight and Ritter had, Miami Herald was a night newspaper owned by the Knight family when I joined the company first in Charlotte in 1956. And the Ritters, of course, were the Ritter Publications was basically owned by the Ritters. They both had gone public in the late 60s when a lot of newspaper companies were going public, selling stock, etc. And in 1974 or 5, they merged, and
The Knight papers and the Ritter papers.
And became Knight Ritter. And originally, there was more Knight than Ritter in the merger, and the headquarters were in Miami, and the people in charge were the people who had been in charge of Knight newspapers, and that's where I had spent so much of my career. I made several visits to San Jose while Bo was still in high school. And then April 1st, I came out and became the
1977
of 1977, and became the editor of the Mercury and News, which was the Mercury News on Saturday and Sunday. And
so you were the editor. Tony Ritter.
Tony had become publisher.
Became the publisher
in the interim.
What's the difference between an editor and a publisher?
Well, an editor is responsible usually for the editorial part of the paper, meaning news and frequently comment. Although on a lot of papers and at times on the Mercury, there's been a distinction between the two. They would both answer to the editor, and the editorial page editor would both answer to the publisher. But I was responsible for both when I came out.
News and editorial.
News
so that's
and
the opinion section.
News and the opinion section, which was interesting because I had not had much experience in the opinion part of the business. I considered myself a news executive, and that's where I focused primarily when I first came to San Jose.
What's the publisher do then? The publisher
is the head of the whole operation. He's got the business responsibilities, but also in most instances, including here, he's responsible for what happens editorially also.
And you were the editor when you arrived. Later, you served as publisher of the Mercury News.
Yeah,
as well.
in the interim, I went back to Miami for 8 years and was a corporate officer for 8 years. I was ultimately the senior vice president for news of the company.
For Knight Ritter.
For Knight Ritter.
All the papers.
For all the papers, and one of my predecessors in that role said his job was to explain the editors to the corporation, to explain the corporation to the editors. That's an oversimplification, of course.
Well, let's go back to your time as editor.
Right.
So you arrive in San Jose in 1977. What were your impressions of San Jose politics at that time? And especially compared to what Miami was like. You'd spent over a decade in Miami.
Yeah, I'd spent 16 years in Miami, and Miami had changed dramatically in that time because of the heavy influx of Cuban exiles in that time, and their politics had become very influenced by the Cuban immigration. It took me, I didn't try to make an immediate, draw immediate conclusions about the political situation in San Jose. I met Janet Gray Hayes, who was the mayor, right away. I met some of the members of the Board of Supervisors. A lot of what we were doing at the paper had to do with what they did.
Mm-hmm.
My original sense of San Jose was that it was a big city that looked like a small town, and in some ways acted like a small town.
Yeah. Even then, the population was about 600,000.
That's correct. Yeah, right around 600,000. A man named Ted Tedesco was city manager, whom I liked. I think was trying to do a good job, and I got to know him. I spent a lot of time in the beginning focusing on the coverage of local government and local politics, but especially local government. I believed then, and I believe now, that a major responsibility of a journalistic institution is to do a good watchdog job, where it's of whoever feels responsibility for it.
So what did you do to change the way the Mercury News was covering local politics or editorializing about it?
Well, I don't want to be unfair to Joe Ritter, but he had been a really serious power broker who made personal decisions about what he was going to put in the paper, etc. I understood before I got here that I was not going to have to operate that way, and I certainly didn't with Tony Ritter, who made no effort to operate that way. We were good partners, and he was very supportive of what I was trying to do. First of all, a lot more money was made available to us. Knight Ritter felt, and certainly Tony felt, that the potential of the paper had not been realized by any means, and we were able to add people fairly quickly. As a matter of fact, I think I was maybe adding them too slowly for Tony's taste. Tony's a man who likes to do things in a hurry if he's going to do them, and I wanted to be very careful in the process of selecting people for the paper and building staff, and a lot of that was with young people, but with very carefully selected young people.
We'll hear more from Larry Jinks next month. Meanwhile, you can catch up on previous shows on our website at creatvsj.org or on YouTube by searching for CreaTV San Jose. And you can let us know what you think about our show and suggest future topics or guests by email at valleypolitics@creatvsj.org, on Twitter at valley_politics, and by following us on Facebook. And now that's all, folks. Thanks for watching Valley Politics today. See you next time.